Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Common Sense Crypto channel. As with you always, this is Rich doing another video today on XRP. So I hope you're all having a wonderful day today, wherever you are in this great world. We're gonna talk about XRP. And once again, this is the one-day chart. We're sitting here at $2.15. It looks like XRP is now starting to rebound. If you look at the 7-day chart, you could see how we're setting higher lows now, showing that upward trajectory. Let's hope that continues into this week, because we got a lot of big things happening. We have the Fed possibly cutting rates. We also have Franklin Templeton ETF as well. Now, I don't know if that ETF is going to get delayed again or not. We don't know if the Fed's going to cut rates or not, but it would be nice if XRP was showing some momentum going into that news, because that could definitely be a catalyst. As well as this, Trump hits at using trade with the U.S. to get Israel and Iran to make peace. Now, if they make peace, that will also be bullish for crypto. Crypto does not like war. So if that all ends, hopefully we could start to see Bitcoin moving up, taking the rest of the market with it. A lot of big things can happen this week. And I would just like to see the breakout begin. XRP just hit $589, and you have to buy one of these cars. Which one are you choosing? You know, whenever you see these posts coming out, you know we are getting close. You know, whenever people start talking about the Lambo again, you know it's almost time for XRP to take off. But, you know, who the hell would buy a Lambo with the $10,000 maintenance fee every year? There's so many better options. Is XRP safe or a scam? What investors need to know in 2025. Again, when they start calling XRP a scam, you know we're getting close. But there is a lot of scams around XRP. Remember all the AI videos with Brad Garlinghouse and Monica Long and even David Schwartz? But XRP and Ripple is definitely not a scam. And at the end of this article, they say that XRP is not a scam. In conclusion, while XRP has faced scam concerns and legal scrutiny, it is not a scam. It's a legitimate cryptocurrency with a robust ecosystem, real-world utility and cross-border payments, and a history of both innovation and controversy. I mean, we are no longer in 2020 anymore. We're here in 2025. And Ripple now has rails set up all around the world. You see the daily announcements. You see partners of Ripple talking about how they utilize XRP to save money when sending money, and how fast XRP moves money around the world. The days of speculation are coming to an end, and eventually we are going to see XRP really start to shine. I mean, once it starts to break out and the case is done and over with, the ETFs are live, regulatory clarity is in place, ISO is going live, that's going to change everything in this space. And I don't think people realize that yet. We are ending the days of hype, and we're going into the days of real utility, real world use case. And there's no arguing with the chart. XRP historic breakout incoming. In all my years of trading crypto, I have never seen a 7-year-long bull pennant. We might be about to witness one of the most significant breakouts in crypto history. You know, when something consolidates for that period of time, the breakout is going to be absolutely incredible. Once XRP really starts to get moving, it's going to move so fast. People are going to be still sitting on the sidelines trying to get into XRP, hoping the price dips so they can buy XRP. But this is the time you accumulate. When nobody's looking at it, when there's blood in the streets, that's when you want to be buying XRP. Not when a massive green candle shows up and you're buying halfway up that green candle. Here's predicted XRP's price if XRP Ledger handles 100% of Hidden Road's volume. Now people are looking at Hidden Road once again. They're saying that if XRP Ledger was to handle all of Hidden Road's volume, it could push the price of XRP in a range from $3.50 to $28. Grok thinks it would be much lower, but they're always looking at the supply. You know, the supply of XRP, it's going to be gone so quick, people are not going to even realize what just happened. You are going to have company after company buying XRP, locking it away in liquidity pools. Why would they be doing that? Because every company now is starting their own stable coin. But they need a bridge to send that stable coin from one company to another, because company A is, or company B is not going to want company A's stable coin. They're going to want to have their own stable coin. So it goes in as company A's stable coin into XRP, comes out on the other end as company B's stable coin, because XRP can move anything of value. So it's hard to make any type of predictions on cross-border payments and so on, because we don't really know how much XRP is going to be out there, even over the coming months. You know, over the coming months, we are going to see a wave of institutional adoption. It's going to begin with the case ending and regulatory clarity in the United States. Once that happens, all of a sudden you're going to get these big announcements from companies that were under an NDA. And they're going to be talking about opening up an XRP treasury as well, locking away XRP, utilizing it to move their stablecoin. Even to move money, they could use it without even having their own stablecoin. Why doesn't Ripple adopt an XRP reserve strategy if XRP is going to $8,000? You know, Bitcoin maxis, they just don't seem to understand it yet. There's no reason for Ripple to have an XRP treasury. They have the XRP escrow. And Ripple is also going to be the custody solution for a lot of these companies that do start their own XRP treasury as well. But Ripple utilizes that XRP escrow strategically. They're buying other companies. They're using it to add utility to XRP, which will add value to XRP. But Ripple, I think they're going to eventually become a bank. I think it's just a matter of time. And every time you turn around, it looks more and more like Ripple is becoming a central bank. I always thought that at one point, Ripple would replace the Fed and RLUSD would become the US digital dollar. But when you have escrow, you don't need a treasury. This comes from Gordon, and I like this post. Imagine working 40 hours a week just to hold a currency that gets devalued 10% per year by design. That's not a system. That's financial enslavement. Crypto is the only jailbreak. Do you see? You know, I'm not a fan of Bitcoin, but I would still hold Bitcoin over the US dollar. But now we have so many better options than Bitcoin. You have XRP, you have XLM, XDC, and so on. But this is, when you buy crypto, this is what you're breaking away from. You're breaking away from the cycle that they created for you. And it is a slavery system. You know, you got to break away from that. And then you start to build your own wealth away from their system. Maybe it's through passive income that you're getting from your crypto. Maybe it's through borrowing against your crypto, paying it back with passive income that you're getting from your crypto. You will become your own bank. And again, I always said that Ripple would eventually become a central bank and we would become the bank branches, because our XRP, people are going to want to borrow again, borrow our XRP in the future, and we'll get passive income from it. But it's hard to get a country to agree to a new financial system. Take a listen to Brad Garlinghouse here.
I think we have to acknowledge, Ben Bernanke, the former head of the US Fed, came to one of Ripple's customer events. And one of the things he said is, countries will not give up their ability to control monetary supply. They will roll tanks into the streets first because it's giving up sovereignty. Now, we could debate whether or not some countries at the longer tail ever had control of their money supply. But the G20, I think I agree with Jeremy that digital cash, cash is anonymous and private and all those things. But if you ever walk into the bank and ask to withdraw $20,000 of cash, they're going to ask you a lot of questions.
And that's going to be the biggest problem for a country. Every country right now, they want that level playing field. They don't want to give in to other countries. That's why you see all these countries either creating a central bank digital currency or a stable coin. But Ripple, they're working with the banks. They're working with these countries. If they want something, Ripple makes that happen, like the private ledger. But there's not going to be two places where XRP is two different prices. People still argue that the price is so much higher on the private ledger. The banks are still in the testing phase. But countries will work with the private sector as long as the country has control over what currency the private sector is creating. In other words, like RLUSD, it has the clawback feature. It has the freeze feature. I think those had to be put in place, and I think those were things that the banks were asking for, possibly even the U.S. government, if they're going to adopt RLUSD as the new digital dollar. But we're just not quite to that point yet. But that's why you don't fight the system. That was the biggest problem with Bitcoin maxis. They always said that Bitcoin's going to replace the US dollar. Bitcoin's going to replace the banks. And that's why adoption of Bitcoin, it's just not happening. Plus, Bitcoin cannot scale. But if you're working with the banks and you're working with the government, they're more likely to utilize your solution. Stablecoin bill in Hong Kong and Genius Act in the United States. And if you look at what's going on with the Hong Kong stable bill, it looks a lot like MiCA. It looks a lot like what they're going to do in the US as well. So full reserve backing, redemption at par value upon request by the holder, segregation of client assets, compliance with anti-money laundering, CFT, audit, disclosure, and fitness and proprietary requirements. Here's what I see when I see this new stablecoin bill in Hong Kong. Tether getting regulated out once again, because Tether cannot pass an audit. And that's why I said, with all these countries getting their own stablecoin bill, it's clearing the way for USDC and RLUSD, while it's pushing the fraudulent Tether into decoupling. It's just going to eventually decouple. And when it does, it's going to take Bitcoin down with it. But all these countries are going to have very similar stablecoin bills in place. The laws are not going to be different going from one country to another. Charles Hoskinson just did the unthinkable. The Cardano founder is rolling out a full XRP package. airdrop for XRP holders, Lace Wallet XRP support, RLUSD praise, DeFi bridges in the works. The walls are falling, ecosystems are merging. Are you paying attention to XRP? I've been saying this ever since 2022. All of these cryptocurrency companies, these networks are coming together, they're connecting to each other. They're forming the new financial system in real time. But most people still cannot see how big this actually is yet. Every single ISO 222 network, it's interoperable with every other network. And you're seeing it happen with XDC and XRP, Cardano and Ripple, Hedera and Ripple, QNT and XDC. They're all connecting together. That's the new financial system building out in real time. But like I said at the beginning of this video, it looks like XRP is finally starting to move back upward. Let's hope that continues going throughout this week, because I think we are going to see the Fed possibly cut rates unless Powell just wants to be spiteful and not do it because Trump asked him to do it. And hopefully the ETF gets approved. The problem I see with the ETF, I think Atkins is going to want to wrap up the Rippleverse SEC case first before he approves the XRP ETFs. That's just my opinion. I'm still very optimistic, though, that this week is going to be great for crypto and XRP. But until it happens, stay patient, stay positive, and let's get rich together. With that said, I'm going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you all for watching. I appreciate all of you. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great night.